So, we now enter into the epilogue of the Lords of Fancy Cloaks presents Storm King's Thunder. For all 35 of you watching at home, you may be wondering what happened to our characters. Well, it just so happens that we have a little backup story prepped for that. So, in terms of what Lotta and Dodstaff got up to, Lotta and Dodstaff parted ways with the groups to finish the missions that they still needed to complete. Lotta made their way back to Bryn Shandar to acquire the gold that was promised to them from the barkeep for selling that ivory horn. While Lotta was heading off to Bryn Shandar, Dodstaff themselves would travel back and speak with Hecaton. Well, that was their intention, but it turns out that actually they would head off straight to the Maelstrom Court and ask permission from good old King Balthazar. They would ask permission to help slay Countess Sensori, but because King Balthazar is such a good king and a godly king, the first thing he did was deal with the treachery of all the giant lords that dared speak out and act against them. Soon after, Lotta and Dodstaff would again meet back up at Nightstone to help the rebuilding of the town and to build a new inn with the money that Lotta got from the barkeep. They would build this inn on the outskirts of Nightstone, since the old one was in ruin. They would call this building the Warriors Achieving Neutrality Through Kindness Inn.
Think about it.
Warriors from the distance.
Wait, spell it together, guys.
One last time, everyone.
Warriors Achieving Neutrality Through Kindness Inn. Get it? Soon after that, Lotta would give birth to an albino half-dwarf, half-Goliath, essentially a human, and was a very stocky, very, very, very hairy ginger baby that they would name Zalria. Dodstaff would try and adopt Gelist many times, but since she's a strong, independent woman who don't need no man, she would politely decline. But both Dodstaff and Lotta would soon make the announcement of asking Gelist to be the godmother of a young Zalrir.
Oh my god! I'll be on it!
Soon after setting up the Warriors Achieving Neutrality Through Kindness Inn, they would also adopt a little female puppy Yorkshire Terrier and call her Balthazar. Inside the inn was filled with memories of the party's journey, including an effigy to both the merchant and the Red Dragon cult. A wall with the hole in the center with an inscription of the words carved, "Big Woman!" Dwarven. And a giant mural above the fireplace of Lotta sitting atop the bodies of 1,000 patrons from one bar fight. During the daytimes, Dodstaff would recount tales of the party to the local patrons in great detail, which were both inconsistent and confusing. Lotta would run a club in the basement on weekends and evenings with drunk patrons, which would consist of fisticuffs. But thou shalt not talk about fisticuffs. That is the first rule and the only rule. And with their son, Zalria, and their little bitch, Balthazar, they would live the rest of their lives at the Warriors Achieve Neutrality Through Kindness Inn, happily ever after.
I'm disappointed you didn't get married.
Who said they didn't?
They didn't mention it.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
As a holy cleric, I could do the ceremony.
I can wait.
I wouldn't be able to do it because I'd just be too busy going all the way through
Okay. For Gelist's epilogue. Gelist goes back and makes contact with Sirac. She wants to find out that they're okay and if they do actually want to leave the family home that they were trapped in. Indeed, it turns out that Sirac did want to leave, and so she heads over and busts him out, and sends him back on his way with Bryn Shandar with nary a handhold, a kiss or a hug. She then makes her way to Yartar to find the innkeeper. It turns out that night they had was a romantic and sweet one. And Gelist truly had fallen in love with the innkeeper. She decides to stay and recovers from the trauma of the ring. She soon finds work as a healer and gives blessings to ships. Seeing as her god is the god of the sea, it felt only necessary. Her and the innkeeper soon lead a peaceful life together. Many people flock to the tavern with the inn with no name. One for the charming presence of the innkeep, but the other for the peaceful nature of the wife, Gelist. Finally, Gelist finds a library and rediscovers her love of reading and research, and soon seeks out to make information more readily available, starting first in Yartar, supported by her loving husband, the innkeep.
What was his name?
I'll be telling you. That's for Gellis to come up with. Fargrim returns to a peaceful and serene hill. The dwarven clan he resides with like to live outdoors, in beautiful stone huts with nice grass roofs and fire pitch blowing through. He heads over the hill with armour and scars anew, and sees his children playing in the meadows peacefully. He walks over to his wife expecting a kiss and a hug, but soon gets a slap in the face. Screaming at him, she asks, "You were only meant to go out for some potatoes? And now you've been gone a year." "You know, Jessica's husband would never do this," he says. And Fargrim just shrugs, heads indoors, takes off his armour, and pours himself a nice cup of tea, and soon goes back to a peaceful life of being a husband and a farmer. Balthazar, after finding his way to a pub that caters purely to giants, finds that in his now giant strength and giant resilience, that human beer can no longer have the effect that it once had. His first act of court is to build a tavern fit for giants, where ale can be poured regularly and steadily, so that he may feel that once buzz he had so loved to have. Ruling comes easy to Balthazar over time, guided by Zephyroth and his sisters, who he does not try and sleep with. Sure, some may question his rule. Many often do. But the ordning peacefully restores, and the giants once again reside over their lords and lands, and find a peaceful time with the small folk of Faerun. And with that, we'll end it there. But we take ourselves back to the quiet, empty Colosseum. And from within the cavern, we hear something. We hear a prayer and a chant. We hear a spell being cast. Fire and light begins to spew from the cavern as the Colosseum starts to erupt. In a brief, quick instant, the chanting stops, and you hear not once, not twice.
Oh.
Do you hear the roar of 5 dragons?
Oh.
And with that, we will finish it there.